On December 5, 2015, Jason Storie, a novice caver from Vancouver, Canada, set out with his 5 friends on an outing to Cascade Cave. That morning, when he kissed his wife goodbye, he never dreamed that he might never see her again. Jason is a newcomer to caving. Before their venture into Cascade, he had only gone into 4 other caves. He's 43, a stocky father to 2 toddlers. He was introduced to caving by his good friend Andrew Munoz, who used to be a cave guide. Andrew is now a paramedic. He would know what to do if something was to go wrong. At 6 a.m. on December 5th, Jason and Andrew drove through the heavy rain to the parking lot of a log cabin in Port Alberni. They were with 2 other friends, Adam Shepard, also a paramedic, and Zach Zariski, a chef and volunteer firefighter. The key they obtained after signing a waiver would open the metal door leading into the small, well-hidden entrance of Cascade. This tells you just how dangerous this cave can be. About a mile long and 338 feet deep, Cascade is full of twisting turns and incredibly tight squeezes. A claustrophobe's hell. And soon, Jason and Andrew's own nightmare. The 4 friends met up with the remaining 2 members of their party, Matt Watson and Arthur Taylor, both computer programmers. Together, they drove out on an unmarked trail for half a mile before stopping at a clearing to take inventory of their gear: ropes, harnesses, carabiners, 2 bags that contain a small gas-fueled jet boil stove, food, water, a first aid kit, and a mylar space blanket that resembles aluminum foil. The group was ready and as fully prepared for the tough caving ahead as one can be. At 10 a.m., they finally reached the entrance to Cascade, which sits on the ground. Easily missed if you weren't looking for it. They pulled the metal door open and climbed down a 30-foot aluminum ladder, each of them anchored with carabiners to a rope. They tied the key at the bottom of the ladder. With the lights from their headlamp, they walked down a narrow passage studded with jagged boulders. In the background, the drip, drip, drip of water can be heard. That dripping soon turned into a light but steady flow, a precursor to disaster, but the group did not realize it. It was 41 degrees, damp, and chilly. About 45 minutes in, Adam felt his back, injured a few weeks ago, starting to twinge. He told his group he can't go any further. Matt escorts him to the entrance before coming back to his waiting friends. They continued to explore for the next 90 minutes, marveling at the jagged terrain and delicate formations shaped by Mother Nature. They crawled, stride, and slid through the cave's tricky passages and corridors. Everything in sight was inconstant. Like Andrew once told Jason, there are over 1,000 caves and tunnels on Vancouver Island, and it's never the same. Soon they approached Bastard's Crawl, one of the features that make the cave unique, a very narrow passage not big enough to stand up in that leads into a short, tight downhill. To get through, Andrew calls for his friends to crab walk. After Bastard's Crawl comes a waterfall called Double Trouble, aptly named because a jutting rock splits the stream in 2. They set up their ropes to rappel 50 feet. Boots and gloved hands grasp for purchase on slippery ledges. On either side of them, the water gushes forth noisily before landing at the bottom in a spray of bubbles. Outside the cave, unbeknownst to the cavers, the heavy rain was growing stronger, soon turning into a storm surge. Inches of water started to collect before bursting forth and making its way down the labyrinth of subterranean tunnels. The group stopped for a 20-minute lunch a few minutes beyond Double Trouble. It was 1 p.m. They've been in the cave for 3 hours. After the quick bite, they continued towards their goal, the end of the cave, which lies just a quarter mile away. However, they only made it 300 feet when Zach began to shiver violently. They decided to head back. They start to retrace their route. Matt goes first, followed by Arthur, then Jason, Zach, and Andrew. By then, the sound of the rushing water was louder, and the way was muddier than it had been earlier. At 2:15, the group approached Double Trouble. The waterfall was now roaring down, churning angrily into white froth. How could this happen so quickly? Is it a rundown from the rain? Jason had wondered. Matt hooked the rope that was left attached at the top of the protruding rock to his harness and started hauling himself up. Climbing up was decidedly harder than rappelling down. It was only 50 feet, but finding leverage in the tiny wet shelves of the rock wall was tough, precise work. Once Matt made it to the top, He immediately threw down the rope for the others. Arthur climbed up next, then Jason. At the top, Jason got on his stomach to pull himself up the incline of Bastard's Crawl. The water was deeper than before, and it smashed into his face with some notable strength. He powered through it. Unfortunately, upon reaching the mouth of the passage, a large stream of water swept him onto his back. Jason was immediately submerged. The pressure of water was immense, and it was quickly building up behind him. If he didn't get out of the crawl fast, the water would pop him out onto the jagged rocks below. Jason was trapped there for 5 minutes. He tried calling for help, but surging water made it hard for him to breathe. He was gasping for air. Zach, who was following behind Jason, noticed his predicament. He quickly called Andrew for help. Andrew acted fast. He clambered to the bottom of the crawl and looked up at Jason, who, though only a couple of feet away, was in a precarious position. He told Jason to step on his shoulders to float up, but Jason was unable to move. His foot got stuck between rocks, effectively trapping him in the narrow space. Andrew reached into the rushing water and fished around to free Jason's foot. 20 minutes later, Jason finally emerged out of the Bastard's Crawl. He was exhausted, eyes shut tight, and gasping. But the ordeal did not end there. The water was still rising while Jason was turning hypothermic. Andrew wrapped his friend in the mylar blanket and fired up the jet boil. He told Zach to join Arthur and Matt beyond the Bastard's Crawl and instructed him to notify search and rescue if he and Jason don't catch up in 30 minutes. They did not catch up in 30 minutes. Andrew did his best to warm Jason. He poured hot water over his clothes until his color started getting back to normal. A few minutes later, they made another attempt to escape, but the water kept rising. When they made it to the top of the crawl, there's barely 4 inches of air between the water and the ceiling, not enough for them to keep their heads up to breathe. Luckily, Jason spotted a ledge big enough for the two of them to perch. It was 6 p.m. They were 200 feet below the surface, huddled together under a blanket. Zach had left them 3 hours ago. Wanting to conserve batteries in their headlamps, the two sat mostly in darkness. Their jet boil had run out of fuel a few minutes ago. Jason is a university drama graduate. He drew from his theatrical training and forced his breathing to slow down and move through his diaphragm and up to the tip of his skull. He pulled his sweatshirt up to his nose to warm his face and thought about his family and how much life insurance coverage he has. For his part, Andrew recited a mantra from a science fiction novel, Dune. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little black death that brings total oblivion. I will let the fear pass through me, and when the fear is gone, only I will remain. Both men feared for their lives, and they feared for the lives of their friends, wondering if they made it out alive. There's no sign of rescuers. The water continued to rise. Outside the cave at 9 p.m., members of the ground and cave search and rescue squads started to swarm. Despite Jason and Andrew's fear, their 3 friends made it out alive and they called for help. However, rescue at the time was impossible. The water level and its ferocity continued to rise. The team would have to wait for the water level to drop before trying again. Inside the cave, Jason and Andrew dozed on and off. They checked in on each other every 20 minutes to make sure the other was still alive. Every now and then, one of them would turn on their headlights to check the water level. They continued this routine for 12 straight hours. At around 5 a.m., the water started showing signs of receding. 1 hour later, it had gone down enough for the two to be able to keep their heads above water and try and escape. Over the next 90 minutes, the two fought their way to the entrance of the cave, muscles aching and so very exhausted. They waded through water, at times chest-high water, until finally they reached a passage that was high enough for them to walk upright. Ahead, they saw lights flickering in the distance. Jason had one thought: they made it. If you have followed this story to this point, I would like to say a big thank you. If you like this kind of story, don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment below. For more of this type of content, please click on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you will be notified when another video is posted. Until next time, be cautious and don't ever lose your sense of wonder.